Hey, yeah, what? Grab your bootstraps, yeah, let's scale your growth. Here's the truth, Jack. We'll reach the globe, unveil the notes.
What the fuck?
Earn your digits, won't burn, you'll get it. See, this is factual. Funds will show, learn to flow with Candid Capital.
This is a Candid Capital interview. In these episodes, we host industry business professionals involved in the global tech ecosystem to discuss various topics related to tech, global economy, and building sustainable businesses and investments. Welcome to the Candid Capital podcast. This episode, we will cover building and investing in Web3 and where blockchain is heading with Laura Walsh, an angel investor and Techstars mentor. Welcome and thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
So we've been talking back and forth a little bit about doing this.
Yeah.
So happy we're able to do it live instead of virtually.
Yeah, sorry about that. It's been a crazy move back to Canada. So.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
So usually how I like to start these things out is the origin story. So, I would like to know how you got into entrepreneurship, specifically in tech, and kind of what led you there and some of the stuff's on the journey to where you are today.
Sure, the long and winding road. So I'm a bit older. Starting out, I did start out as most Canadians do, to be honest, with a government job. I worked for the Nova Scotia Department of Education, but while I was working there, they had a program to send their employees to university. And I came from a family where you couldn't afford to go to university. So you couldn't go until you started working and saving for yourself. Even with student loans, it just did not become a reality. So I went to university while I was working as an administrative assistant at the Department of Education, Nova Scotia Department of Education. And I went to St. Mary's. I took Japanese culture and linguistics and anthropology. I wanted to take, there is a point to this, I swear to God. I wanted to take ancient Egyptian because that was my original passion, my passion project. I wanted to be an archaeologist one day and go to the Valley of the Kings and dig up, I was going to find Hatshepsut's tomb, and all this stuff. But they didn't offer it that semester. So let's take something else. Let's take Japanese. Okay. And then I got really hooked on it. Probably because of the way, the pictorial writing, which is, kanji, which actually can be interpreted as pictures. So I took that for a year. I ended up quitting my job. Well, I took a sabbatical first. Went to Japan as an exchange student for a summer, which, if you've ever done an exchange in uni, for some reason, those really condensed courses end up giving you a year's worth of credit. So it's like, yeah, absolutely. If I can do that, take a month and a half, 2 months off of work and go over. Fantastic. I took and then came back, took a sabbatical for a year because I was going to go over to Japan, got another opportunity to go over to Japan, and ended up going to university in Japan. Came back, quit my job, and went back to Japan. And I've been over there ever since, over in Asia ever since. So Japan eventually led me to Thailand. At the time we were transferred, I got married, had a baby, built a house in Japan, and was working with an international school. And then my now ex-husband got transferred to Thailand for his job. So off we go to Thailand. And Thailand is a bit of a different world. But the opportunities there that you probably would not get in Canada as, a quote unquote nobody. If you're kind of following what I mean, you have the opportunity to meet people from all over the world, different class levels, different education levels, and it's more of a melting pot of people with big ideas and risk takers. Moved to Thailand. Unfortunately, the marriage didn't work out, split up, and then I ended up doing my master's degree in Thailand, single mom with a small child, cut off from any supports. And it was easy. I could have come home to Canada. That would have been the easy way out. But I saw, no offense to my country, I love my country, but there wasn't the opportunities there back in Canada that there would have been in Thailand. And I basically hustled my behind off. I got a job at the Foreign Correspondence Club of Thailand, actually running the entire club. So right in with all of the media. And this was during, I think we're looking at the second coup. Not the second coup overall, but one of the coups, I think during 2014 when they shut down Bangkok and the military kept raiding the club over and over again over political and non-political, just basically topics they didn't like. So didn't get friendly with the military, but we learned how to deal with that. We learned how to deal with difficult topics, and then did my master's in international development studies, because in Thailand they have a UN global hub there, or regional hub, sorry. So that's BRH, the Bangkok Regional Hub. So I ended up getting applying for and getting a bit of it's like an internship there. Even though I was 40 years old at the time, I'm like, I'm going to go. And I'm literally the 40-year-old intern, right? And they're very confused. Like, why do you, this is my stepping stone. I know how to, like, you have to get in. So I wanted to get in. And during that time, I had a lot of, let's say, tech savvy friends. You know, I made a group of friends in Bangkok, and a lot of them were into emerging markets, into new tech, into like new platforms, new ways of working, new ways of building, and new ways of expanding. And this was around the time, this was a little bit after, well, not a little bit, a couple of years after Bitcoin had first come onto the scene. And some very smart, like genius level friends of mine who I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I know you know what you're talking about. So I'm going to sit down and listen for a minute. Pardon me. They started talking about Bitcoin, what it is, what it could do. And I'm kind of like, I'm on a really fixed budget. I can't really afford even then to buy a full Bitcoin. Maybe I'll push that back a little bit. And then around 2016, I finally bit the bullet. And at the very strong urging of a friend of mine, I bought my first Bitcoin. That was at the time that I think it was Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash had split. Bitcoin Cash had forked off from Bitcoin. And so I ended up with not double, but I have more. So I immediately rolled Bitcoin Cash over into Bitcoin and held on to that Bitcoin. And still working at BRH. And we had a Canadian guy come over and do a workshop on how Ethereum and this Canadian company he was running could help NGOs and INGOs with their funding, and how blockchain could actually help with fund distribution in a more transparent manner. Because not so much in BRH, but the UN was going through funding scandals and misappropriation of funds. I think there was a big Oxfam scandal. It was not looking good from a brand reputation and image, image perspective. It looked like the UN was squandering funds. When you work inside, no, because everyone's really has a very close BDI on those funds, but pardon me, on the ground is a different manner. So there's last mile implementation. So he came to talk about how blockchain could help this. And that was really interesting to me. And at the end, he's, hey, do you want some Ethereum? And I'm like, I know this. I know about Ethereum because I'd done my little, a bit of research on the side in my spare time after buying my Bitcoin. And so I went and had a chat with him, and we got some ETH, and then the guy on the other side of my cube, back in Cube land, was talking about, wait, what is this and what is that? And so I had like this 45 to an hour long conversation about what blockchain was, what Ethereum was, and how that was different to this. And again, at that time, the friends who had got me into Bitcoin were early investors in a chain called NEM, N-E-M. Back then it was called New Economy Movement. And they had an interesting, it's not like now with their funding models. They had a very interesting funding model where there's no VC money, nothing like that. It was more like Bitcoin. If you signed up early enough and you bought these tokens, it was a community distribution. And it was on Bitcoin Talk. It started on Bitcoin Talk. It branched out. And at one point, I think it was like in the top 5 on CoinMarketCap. So it was a very community-led, driven, created, and maintained project. And they were looking to expand to different countries. Like back then, that's how they did it. This was around 2017. And I was still at the UN. I spoke to my supervisor about, hey, am I getting a contract? Because I can only work for so long without a contract because I do have, a child to raise and bills to pay and food to buy. And he said, I'm working on it, but I don't know. And then at that point, I'd gotten an offer from NEM to establish, run, and create the country office for NEM in Thailand and to promote, create the company, create the entity, lobby the government, get in there, and not for the token. It was never about the token. And even then, I didn't even know what token allocations were, because back in the NEM days, you didn't get tokens for being an employee. It wasn't part of your package. You had a job to do, and you either loved what you were doing or you didn't, and you either did it or you didn't. So I saw the way that they were using the chain, especially in more traditional type tech businesses. And the explanation they had, the way they explained it was very easy to understand. Education was number one from the word go. So I jumped from the UN to there, the last day. He was like, but my supervisor, but I'm on the cusp of giving you a contract. I'm like, that's great, but this has piqued my interest. This is new. And I think this is going to, actually help people. I can sit here and spin the SDGs as long as I want, and I still believe in the SDGs, but they're slow. It's slow and incremental. Let's get some real transformative change for people. Give them agency, give them financial literacy, give them control over their, over their assets, and include them in a financial system that right now is maybe excluding them in underdeserved and underserved communities and regions. So I did that, and I created NEM Thailand. There were a couple of guys already doing it, but they hadn't established an entity, and it wasn't looking so good on the NEM side. They weren't quite happy with it, so I took over and made
for tech entrepreneurship. You kind of just jumped straight into Web3. You didn't.
No, there was none of this. Let's easy ramp. Except for back in high school, I used to, with 2 friends of mine, we used to build computer towers.
Okay.
For fun. Like, this looks like an interesting card. Let's weld this in, and, burnt my fingers with with one of those tiny little welding torches for, like soldering irons for a motherboard. But other than that, it was a hard right turn.
Yeah, that is a very different journey. Usually you hear SaaS software of some sort.
Nope.
Or, hardware.
Yeah.
Deep into it. Not Web3 is kind of like, for the time period you're speaking, this like jump right in there.
Well, I think I'm not a visionary or anything like that, but I saw, especially with implementation and funding, and just the way I would like blockchain technology to be used. Maybe not the way it's gone, or maybe not the way some people are taking it, but the way I really saw it being used. And I wrote some case studies on this, actually, that might still be floating around out there somewhere. Things like legal records and track and trace for, the court system or law enforcement. Let's say they're uploading their body cams. Oh no, it got deleted. Well, it can't really if you have a digital twin somewhere. I mean, yes, there are technical limitations to this. You don't want to upload, a fat video to the chain because you're just going to slow it down and crash it. However, you could chop that up torrented IPFS, and still have that stored somewhere, represented by a digital twin, in the blockchain, and you can trace that. Where like it's gone from, say, for example, this policeman's body cam footage was here, and then it went to there, and that's traced by token movement. And you can trace that. So it's digital twin, it has been traced. Obviously, there's limitations to that. Obviously, there's last mile implementation to that. And obviously, there's a trust issue with that. But there was just, back then, it was like, it can do everything. And let's try. At least let's try. Let's try.
Well, what are your thoughts on kind of contrasting where Web3 related technology is going in, say, the West versus other places? Because from what I see, and maybe this is too high level, it looks like the West has figured out a way to stick it into what already exists.
Yeah.
And the developing regions have figured out how to use it to solve problems.
Yeah. I think, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. If you weren't finished your question, I apologize. So in the West, it seems like we're shoehorning it into the financial system, and it's just becoming, I almost want to say money-based. Or a replacement for money, or two fingers up to the traditional financial system. That's not to say that all of them are. That's I don't want to paint everybody with the same brush, but in places like Africa or Asia, it can make more of a tangible difference. It's more like remittances for one example. Pardon me. Remittances are a fact of life for any type of migrant community. And the fees that they were getting charged were exorbitant. A lot of people were sending money back home to support families. Fees were exorbitant. The processing time was also, unreliable, and there's no way to trace where your money is. I can't point to specific examples because they're not coming to the top of my head right now. I do apologize. But there were a lot of companies back then, even, I say around 2018, 2019, that were really focused on remittances and making those fast, easy, and reliable, and really way cheaper than going through a bank. I could go on a rant about Canadian banks, but that's neither the time nor the place. But having access to your funds, knowing where your funds are, being able to transfer your funds quickly, cheaply, and, globally was very...
But then how are you going to have the interview with the bank on why you should be able to transfer $3,000 anywhere?
That happened to me literally last week. I was standing in Scotiabank trying to make an appointment for my soon-to-be 16-year-old daughter to open a bank account. I need an appointment for that, one. Two, a guy just was like, look, I need $5,000. It's my money. And she's like, sorry, we can only give you 3. And he was like, I don't need 3. I need 5. And they had to, it was like, went up 3 manager levels, and like, you really should call ahead. And he's like, but it's my money, And I understand the banking system. I understand why that is. I don't like it. And it doesn't, it seems very, it's almost infantilizing. Mm-hmm. It's like, we know better than you. We know what to do with your money more than you do. So, just trust us. And, as we know, Canada is like 5 banks in a trench coat anyhow. 5 banks, 3 grocery stores, and 2 telecom companies. We're a very monopolistic country. But having that type of financial freedom, it's not for everybody. I will preface with that. It is not for everybody, because a lot of people don't want to do what you need to do right now to have that control.
Yeah, it's a lot of work on the individual.
Yes.
Because you have to take responsibility for everything. And if you spent your whole life in a system where it takes care of a lot of that stuff, it can be intimidating, I think.
It is scary. And I absolutely agree with them. And I think that's... that is one of the places where our industry has fallen down, or our industry, but the industry, the digital asset industry, when you're going on a financial bent, let's say DeFi or something like that. I mean, you can scream at people all you want, not your keys, not your coins. That's not helpful to people who've just made a simple mistake and lost maybe not everything, but a sizable amount of money that they've worked really hard for. That is not the way. Like if your goal is adoption and acceptance and, you know, an alternative way of doing banking or finance or even personal investment, that is not the way to go about it. You don't belittle and, you know, shame people for doing that. I think, I mean, it's a perennial thing. Everyone's been screaming about it for years, but blockchain technology, if you are to get the average person to use it, it should be in the background. It should be like buying something off of Amazon, and it's chugging in the background really well, doing what it does very well, and you should not have to touch it.
Well, I think we'll get there eventually. I mean, it is becoming easier and easier.
It is.
I mean, it's not like 2016.
No, it's
which,
not.
You know, if we're talking about birthdays, I guess mine would be somewhere in 2016.
Yeah.
And I didn't buy it to buy it. I just wanted to be part of what was happening. So, you know, like I'm by no means going to be a Bitcoin, you know, billionaire anytime soon.
Yep.
But even at that time, it was like a real challenge.
It was not
The only thing
easy.
you could really do safely as somebody who's not in it was to use Coinbase.
Yep.
And then they locked out your credit cards 3 months later.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what we did here. And then buying anything was like impossible. And buying any coins that were like on the way up, you could only buy after they started going down.
They started going down, yeah.
Unless you found a way to do it outside of it. But for an average person, you wouldn't be able to figure that out. You're either in the community and you know how to work around everything or not. So I guess considering your first dip into this, it sounds like was Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I'm curious as to what's your take on it, because there's so much hype around it, not just because of the bull market, but because of all the acceptance in the US on it.
I'm not a maxi.
Okay.
And I find maxi culture just toxic. Again, I mean, to be honest, I don't think you can separate. I know a lot of people would like to do this, but I don't think you can separate the maxi toxic culture from the asset at this point, and also the political bent. I would like to separate the politics from the technology, because the technology is supposed to be for everyone. However, the way it's going now, it's either you're libertarian or hard right conservative, or, you know, get out of here. You shouldn't be allowed to have it, which is not how it should work. And conversely, the left has seemed to taken a look at it and said, well, this is just all scam. This is just a scam, which also is not correct. So it's really, really hard to be in the middle somewhere of going, I don't agree with this, but I really don't agree with that either. Let's hold these, you know, two of these things can be held in the same brain at the same time, and two of these things can be true at exactly the same time. But I think Bitcoin, and a lot of people are saying it's Bitcoin. It's not crypto. It's Bitcoin. It's different. Because you have first mover advantage, I guess. Yeah, okay. And there's only, you know, it's basically a scarcity mindset. It's like mining gold. Like there's only so much gold, there's only so much Bitcoin, and that's the way it was set up. My view is it will be there, but if you look at now who actually is accumulating Bitcoin, we're just literally mirroring the traditional financial system we have now, where it's being consolidated in some very large, you know, let's say private equity funds, hedge funds, BlackRock. The ETFs, I think, were a great idea. However, if you're looking for a completely decentralized network, you're not going to have it anymore. The holdings are going to be...
Here's the thing. With the traditional financial sector, you don't have to own the asset to control it.
No.
Is one thing. So I don't see BlackRock trying to buy all of it. They don't need to. They might buy some, but they don't need to have control over the market if it's being integrated into other financial products, because that's how gold and oil and all this other stuff works. The other thing I think with Bitcoin, and you know, this is from the mindset of the gold system was better, so let's build a digital version of it. But it didn't solve the problems of the gold system.
No.
It just created a digital gold system.
Yes.
So for me, what happens when all the coins are mined? Then what? Then we're just back to where we were before, but
Yes.
it's digital. So, that's kind of my only issue with it. Like, I see it has value. It's a digital asset.
Mm-hmm.
And there is enough people involved in it that it has staying power, because that's how fiat works, right? If we all believe it works and we all believe the government's doing what it's supposed to do, then it works.
Then the money has value. The paper has value.
Yes.
Yes.
But I think where things are going to start to come into trouble with that is not this year, probably not this decade, but I think it's coming down the line. And I think the more successful it is in the mainstream, the faster these problems will pop up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think these problems have to wait until the last coin is minted.
No.
I think we will start to see it earlier, especially as very influential groups are able to start doing stuff with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, I think, the risk.
It's a finite resource.
Yeah.
And and if Michael Saylor keeps doing what he's doing, he will have all of them. And then what does that do for everybody else?
Then he has it all.
Okay, great.
He won the game.
What did you win?
He won the game. I knew we were in a digital reality. And then it just turns off. Game over.
Oh no, the Matrix is real. No. but really though, you've won. Okay, great. Now how has this democratized or decentralized finance? It hasn't, because you're accumulating.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So there's a bit of a cognitive dissonance, a little bit in there somewhere, when people are like accumulating. Okay, but it's supposed to be decentralized and it's supposed to be for everybody. That doesn't mean you can't accumulate. But I would still be very reticent to put my entire net worth into Bitcoin.
But also, it's counterintuitive too, because the point of Bitcoin is to hold.
Yes.
Right? So
yes.
you're not really distributing it or decentralizing it. I mean, you can find ways to try to make it look that way, but it's kind of antithesis.
Well, it's like lightning. Lightning makes you spend Bitcoin more easily. Okay. But the thesis of Bitcoin is buy and hold. Yeah. So again, there's so many layers to this, and I mean, I'm like you. I'm not really in the maxi camp exactly, and I'm more interested in the technology itself and really the utility of it. Yeah.
I'm not a philosophical, person on that end, but I'm interested in how this technology could change this and change that. Mm-hmm. And I see Web3 is really a big part of the true digital transformation conversation, because what is being called digital transformation is
cloud. It's cloud SaaS and APIs and 5G. That's your...
It really isn't, because you've turned it digital, but you haven't created any optimization.
No.
It's the same amount of work. Instead of doing it on a piece of paper, you're doing it on a computer. Screen.
Yeah.
And so it really hasn't improved anything. It's just a nicer screen to look at.
Yes.
And whereas I think a lot of the Web3 technology actually is digital transformation, but there is a infrastructure issue, and a lot of places around the world will not have it, Canada specifically, for a very long time, because we can't, won't, or don't have the ability to put in the infrastructure fast enough to be able to offer that stuff. And I'll leave it at that. Otherwise, we're going to go on a rant about Canada.
We don't have the infrastructure to have that.
But let's move on.
Or the regulatory space.
Let's move to the next topic, or the first topic, which would be kind of Techstars. How you got into Techstars. Maybe you can just kind of give a bit of an overview of the Web3 program there.
Sure. So if you don't know Techstars is one of the world's largest investors in startups in the world, in tech startups in the world. They have over 55 accelerators across the world. The one in Dublin that I am a part of and have been since its inception is now called the Techstars Web3 Accelerator, based out of Dublin. Pete Townsend and Hugh McGurr are the MD and the principal associate for those, and they have been with us. I've been with them, they've been with us. us, I want to say, but not really us, since they've gone independent, really. And it's fantastic that they have since its inception about 3 years ago. Going on our fourth cohort coming up. Applications are open now. Do go to the website and check it out. And Pete and Hugh just released their thesis for this year. It keeps changing every year, obviously. It was, let's, literally tokenize everything, because everything can be anything can be a digital asset. And that's true. But they were partnered with a VC at the time that really was interested in the token side, basically the token upside, as a Web3 VC is. But they've broken away from that, and now they are mostly, let's say, independent. So being the Web3 accelerator instead of, let's say, the blockchain accelerator sponsored by Algorand or sponsored by Polygon or sponsored by Aave, they don't have, so whoever you are and whatever you're building on, you're welcome. So it's not maxi for any chain, any token, anything. For the most part, so that started in, I want to say 2021. Yeah, that's right, 2021. Because I remember we just went back to Thailand because we were stuck in Canada for a year during COVID. So we couldn't get out.
Canada was the best place to be in COVID.
Yeah, it was fantastic. We got stopped crossing the bridge into Ottawa several times to visit my father-in-law in hospital. It was not fun. And school was fun. So yeah. But we just got back Thailand, and we had to do our quarantine for 2 weeks in Phuket, which, oh no, stick me in Phuket on the beach for 2 weeks while I'm in quarantine. And after the first day, you can just go wherever you want on the island, no problem. So we were having deep discussions about it then, about how it would be set up and how it would run, and interviewing MDs. I remember interviewing MDs, and Pete was just, head and shoulders above everybody else, and he was fantastic. Former Fidelity, investment banker, knows his stuff. And he was just Hugh, and he's amazing in every way. And our first cohort was really special. I mean, that I think if you're doing an accelerator and you're heavily involved in it, your first cohort are kind of like, these are my babies. These are my babies, and I'll remember them always. And we're still in contact in some ways. And that's again, it's still going. We're going on cohort number 4. I've been involved in every one. Not so much, not as deeply this year because there are other things going on. But hopefully getting back involved next year. Last year, not the last roadshow, because the last roadshow was mostly in New York, but the roadshow before that, we did Toronto, Waterloo. We literally did a roadshow. Toronto, Waterloo, sorry, I don't want to say Toronto because somebody will say I'm not actually Canadian. Toronto, Waterloo, and then New York. And it was a scramble to get to New York because Air Canada shut down all the flights to New York for some bizarre reason. And we all had to convoy in cars and buses and trains to New York. So you got to be
very specific when you use the word convoy.
Oh my, yeah, sorry about that. No, did not mean that. Mean like we all were traveling together and desperately trying to get to New York. Sorry. Not talking about that. That's that over there. I did not agree with the bank account freezing, though. That's the only thing I didn't agree with. So yeah, and then we had this great investor dinner at the end. The CEO of Techstars came by to visit, and it was really successful, and we really liked it. And that was our second cohort.
So how many did you take in your first cohort?
First cohort was, I want to say, let me remember. I want to say 10, but I might be wrong, and Pete's going to find this and correct me. But we did go down a few because we had to decline to have a few with us because maybe they misunderstood the actual concept of an accelerator, which is not to build your product for you, but to help and mentor along the way. These individuals thought that we were going to basically do their go-to-market, do their USP, write their elevator pitches for them. And it's like, no, sorry, that's not what we do here. We give you connections, but you have to take the step. So for
your first cohort, what were, we'll say, the key tech areas that you picked on?
Gaming.
Okay.
A lot of gaming. A lot of There was one sports betting company that was amazing, still going now, Live Duel. They're still going. A lot of, not a lot of NFTs, but there were a couple of NFTs, but not NFTs as you're thinking of them. And we didn't even like to use the word
So no kitties.
NFT. No kitty. Oh, I have a story about the crypto kitties. I still have, I think, 12 of them. About how my child went through about $500 in ETH gas fees in 2018 just because she went crazy for crypto kitties and loves cats and wanted to make, anyway, that was fun. But not NFTs as you think of them as 10,000 pictures that are just have slightly different things. NFTs more as a, again, digital asset, but concert tickets, proof of attendance. And I actually heard of it was a SaaS company that was using NFTs as a security measure in Mexico for letting people into the stadium because they were having such a hard time with gangs and whatnot being let into the stadium. They were using this NFT on your phone to scan. And if you had this NFT, you had a verified ticket. And it was just another layer of security to kind of weed out gang members.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. And so it was, and also NFTs as, I think, album covers, digital music, tracks and things like that. So it wasn't like, hey, here's my collection of 10,000 ducks or something. It was, it had some real utility. But yeah, a lot of gaming.
Okay.
A lot of gaming.
So now you're on which cohort?
We're going into number 4. So like I said, applications are open now and they will stay open until about, I want to say mid-December.
So if you are a Web3 founder or technical person who's building a Web3 company, what are you looking for in the application from them? What are some of the signals that they might hit?
Sure. So luckily, in some ways, the accelerator takes not just pre-seed companies or just not just pre-money. In some instances, if the idea is stellar, they'll take just the idea. Look, I have this idea, but I need help. But this is what I envision, and this is how it'll work. They'll stay, in some instances, they will take you. But what I want to see, and I've been on almost every selection committee. Sometimes I talk too much, so I do apologize for that, for selection committee, everyone who's been on selection committee with me. And I'm also known as being I will find the hole and I will punch through it. Sometimes forcefully so, and sometimes not very Canadian-like, meaning I'll be a bit brutal. Usually not rude, but brutally honest.
I think that's appreciated.
Sometimes it is, and sometimes it is not.
I mean, you have to hit the balance of not being demotivating at the same time.
Yeah.
But I think what is a real problem is we don't tell people enough not to do something, or it's not a good idea, and why.
It's like, please don't waste your time on this.
Yes, because there's a lot of people that have been working on something for a very long time that hasn't gone anywhere. Mm-hmm. And it's mainly because somebody that they saw as a mentor or respected didn't have the willingness to be like, I think you should explore something else.
Yeah, they didn't want to crush their spirit.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think there's a way to do it, and it's not that they're always going to know that that's the right thing, because there's always the cases of the people who say no, and you continue and you go ahead. But I think it's important to hear no, why, instead of being like, not for me, but I'm sure if you keep going, you're going to win. Yeah. That, I think, is harmful. Yeah,
I know. And I usually don't give a criticism unless it's constructive. Like, here's how you could, or maybe have you thought of. There are some things that are just non-starters for me. If you come to me, and I will fight this, sometimes to a ridiculous level. But if you come to me with tokenized real estate, I don't want to hear it. And I never want to hear it.
And why is that?
I think it's an absolute non-starter, and it's a REIT. You're doing a REIT. Just do a REIT. Just do a REIT, please. Stop trying to token it. And nobody wants to do this. Nobody wants to have fractionalized rent like a timeshare. I think then she was maybe 12. If my 12-year-old looks at that and goes, that's just a timeshare, right? You know, you've not, let's say, disrupted anything. You've just moved it again, like you're saying, you're just twinning what we have already, but slapping a token on it. And to me, it seems like a money grab.
That's a good way to put it. Twinning versus digital transformation.
Yes.
They're two completely
or
different
innovation,
things, but it kind of gets in the same bucket often. Yeah, that's interesting.
So I am not a fan. And that's, again, that's a personal thing, but I'm not a fan of tokenized real estate because I've not seen anything that's made an innovation or that's made anything better. It's just digitized, again, like you said, digitized what we already have.
I think it goes back to the basics of tech startups. Like, what problem are you solving?
Yes, and you're not solving a problem here. You're just actually making a lot more barriers and hoops for people to jump through who don't want to do that. Or what you're doing actually is making a speculative asset for other people to invest and speculate on, which, okay, if that's what you're doing, say that, be upfront about it. Look, I'm making a speculative asset for people to invest and trade and speculate on. Okay, that I can respect as like honesty. But if you're saying, no, we're making this really new, amazing way of doing real estate. No, no, you're not. Don't BS me because I really don't appreciate that. So tokenized real estate is a non-starter for me. And there was one, when you're trying to say, I'm the Web3 version of X. I don't want the Web3 version of X. Like, again, you're complicating something that's easy to use. Why? You know, nobody is clamoring for this. Nobody's asking for this. If you actually identify a problem, like a really solid problem, and you give me a really good solution where I can say, yeah, that's actually really interesting. I will fight for you to the end of my days. Like, I will be your champion. If you're saying, no, I'm taking, what was it? We're digital Microsoft or something. I'm like, you're just tokenizing a database, but it's a database. It's an SQL database. If you can't tell me why I wouldn't just do this with a database, then I don't think you actually understand what you're doing.
Okay, so you heard it here. No REITs.
No REITs. No REITs, please. Please, no REITs. I know we can invest in a REIT, on the stock exchange. It's not a problem. It's not a big deal. If you can come up with a way of, but I mean, like, this is Canada. Real estate that's our national pastime. This is our biggest industry is real estate. But if you can actually have a way, and I don't mean real estate in the metaverse because we're still not there yet. If you say, well, I'm gonna build a skyscraper in the sandbox, like, that's what? No, because they don't have the user base. Like, you had your hot second there. The metaverse isn't there yet. Is it coming? Yes, I think it's actually inevitable. It's coming. People are getting more and more digital. Everyone laughed at the Vision Pro for Apple, but now they really love those Ray-Bans that have cameras on them. They love those, but they hated the Vision Pro. But it's going to come. There's going to have these big, clunky, oh, this is awful, and then eventually it will come.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think augmented reality is going to come.
Absolutely.
Snapchat just released something.
Yep.
The metaverse is a bit different, depending on what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So industrial metaverse, that's a no-brainer. That's already happening.
Yep.
They're not changing the name metaverse for that one.
No.
They're keeping that because it actually has actual application.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of financial application. But I do think the metaverse that has been kind of the idea of it that comes off as too much for some people,
mm-hmm.
I 100% think it's because it's not being built for you and me.
No.
It's being built for like people who are like 10 years old now and younger, maybe a little bit older, but it's for them because they're already in that world through gaming.
They're already in Roblox, and they would live an entire life through Roblox.
Yeah.
I remember playing The Sims when I was about 23. I would spend way too much time on it, 22, 23. My daughter now is also, I want this Sims and I want that Sims. That is a metaverse. You are living a second life through an avatar in a metaverse. And gaming, yeah, absolutely. Anybody who games right now is playing in a metaverse. If you expand your idea of what it is, you're playing in an alternative world. You're controlling things in that world. You're buying and selling things in that world through whatever means of barter or currency that you have. It's really not that big of a stretch to then say, hey, you can go forward with that. But yeah, people my age are like, no, what? Ew. Like, why would you do that? Touch grass.
It's the same thing of the difference between generation that grew up with internet, didn't grow up with internet, just got internet. Like there's different products
right in the middle, yeah.
that were built really for different groups. And I really do think the reason that a lot of the industry and a lot of people have this sort of negative connotation with it is simply because it's not being built for them.
No. Yeah.
And it's not them that are going to be supporting it, in it, spending all their hours in it. We'd rather just do this. But
you're sucked into the little square and not be into the big square. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So just one last question about the program.
Sure.
Is it open internationally?
Yes.
Okay, so anybody can apply.
Absolutely,
to this.
Anybody can apply. There may be some visa issues because usually there's and most of it actually it is international, and one of the best parts is most of the program is remote, so it's virtual, so you can take the classes on Zoom and everything like that. There usually is 1 or 2 weeks in person in Dublin and also at a second location. 1 year we went to Berlin, 1 year we went to London and Canada and United States. So again, if you're from countries that have visa issues, maybe take that into account. But if you are accepted, you can plan well ahead because that's usually not around till the end for a roadshow and demo day. But yeah, most of it is virtual, so you can take it wherever you are and keep building. But they will have some in-person events, and the in-person time is so important. Even if you don't think, well, everything's virtual now, I can take whatever I want online, you will not get the same benefit if you don't show up because I was really, before I did Techstars, I've been in Web3 for a long time. Well, longish time, a year seems like 5 in this industry, but you get jaded and you're like, you know what, I'm out. I'm just going to tap out because I don't, I just see all these scams happening. People are disingenuous. I don't like that. And then you walk into a room with like 24 people in there and everyone is just doing the best they can, trying to actually solve a problem and building something amazing. And the energy you get from that and the revitalization you get from that and just the faith you get back in, hey, look, people actually are trying to do things and they're not these, evil tech wizards or people, hell-bent on scamming you out of your savings. Absolutely not. They're entrepreneurs trying to build something to solve a problem. And that really restored, my passion for the industry, my interest in it, and just I discovered that I really want to help. And I mean, it's happened to this day. I don't care what I do. I just want to help in any way I can. Sometimes I'm not the best at answering just because my brain is not functioning that way. But if I'm asked for help, I will help. Anything I can do, I will do. If it's a specific ask, it's way better because rather the amorphous ask, like we tell them when you go to VCs and you're doing a pitch, please don't just get, hey, we would love your support. No, have, where's your ask? What is it? How can they help? And any type of networking as well you're doing, have a specific ask. Otherwise, they know the person on the other end doesn't know where to slot in, and they don't even if they want to help you, they don't know how. So wanting to help and wanting to be involved, it's really, I keep saying restore my faith, but it's made me interested again. It's perked you up because if you've been here for a long time, you do get a bit jaded. It's like, oh God, again? Trump's Trump has more NFTs, really? And then, World Liberty, fine. Oh, come on, man. Like, even people who are hardcore Trumpers are like, oh, dude, no, this is, yeah, okay. Yes, we know. And it's like, yes, we know. This is a grift. Yes. Again, not saying anything about politics, but that's just, I mean, if you look at that objectively, there's no way that is not just asking for money because I need money to run my campaign or what have you. So with all that going on, FTX collapsing, Terra Luna, everything collapsing. And then you see these people, even though we actually had one of our cohorts happening right during all that collapse, and nobody dropped out. We expected, somebody's, this is going to be bad. And we got renewed, and we didn't expect to have any support. We expect, this is going to be the end of it because of this, is the industry going to end? Everything was up in the air, but they still kept grinding. They still kept working. They still kept building. And the whole thing was like, head down and build. This is a bear market. It doesn't matter. What works in the bear market is you build something that people actually need.
Okay, so there's a component of it where it's in person, and it's very helpful in terms of building your support network around other entrepreneurs.
Those other entrepreneurs are going to be your network. They're going to be your first network. They're going to be your most reliable network. Not only that, you need that support as an entrepreneur, as a founder. If you don't have that support system, you're going to have a problem. You need a support system. I don't care how hardcore you think you are, how, just grind and build. There's going to come a time when you hit a wall, and you're going to hit that wall hard. You need that support system, not just for connections and networking and, VC intros. You're going to need that for like, yeah, man, it's hard. Let's go for a run together, or let's go to the pub together, or yeah, I'm here. Let's have a call. You will need that network, and that will be your first network and your most loyal network. Though also you could find your first super fan there. You can find your first partners there. In some cases, the portfolio companies have merged. So you found something that you guys could probably do better together. So let's just work together. Or you found your co-founder there, or you found somebody else there, or through their network. It's going to be your best group of people that you need to know.
Cool.
Yep.
So this kind of brings me to the next part, which is investing in Web3 companies. So before we go into the specifics of, the aspects of investing in a Web3, I wanted to know if there's a particular segment in Web3 from an investment perspective that you are excited about, given that you're also an angel investor.
Mm-hmm. I'm still at heart a diehard gamer. Even though I don't play PC games, I'm a console person. It's just the way I'm wired, and I can't do first person shooters because of motion sickness. So it's just I can't. But pardon me. I love gaming. I will always love gaming, and one of my investments is in esports. And I'm not a PC-based gamer. I've tried and I've failed. I can't do the keyboard thing, so I need a controller. But it's natives gaming, and that's probably my biggest investment. And it's the one that I'm on the board, and I'm still, we still have monthly calls. It was a couple of years ago. We still have monthly calls if I'm around, or the CEO founder Kurt's around, then we will find a way to meet up, usually in Dublin or London or wherever. And they started out more on Web3, but now they're moving more towards a SaaS platform type of offering. And they're doing it the right way. They're building slow, but they're also consolidating. So the Irish Collegiate League is now under Natives. Like, we're running the Irish Collegiate League for esports. So Natives is the biggest team in Ireland. They're in the NLC, so the Northern European League. There's been challenges with that. Funding for the esports league in Northern Europe has been cut. but they're doing the right things. I want to say we're doing the right things, but I'm an advisor and an angel and a board member, so I'm not on the day-to-day grind. But they're doing the right things. They're day-to-day grinding. They're looking to do more things that will bring in more and more diversified revenue streams. So things like, let's digital twin your rugby league, or your football team. Now, football as in football, not hand-egg.
No, I got it.
Yeah, sorry. I've not lived here for a really long time, so when I say football, I mean soccer, I guess. So soccer just sounds alien to me now. But yeah, so that's my biggest investment, and that's I see the market for that. Gaming's not going anywhere, even though the quote unquote traditional gaming sector has had a visceral anti-Web3 reaction. Again, I think that's another inevitability.
That's because it's controlled by gatekeepers.
Yes,
right?
You do not want in-app purchases to be, you don't want to lose that gravy train. And I think that's what they saw happening. And it's like, no. And also, most of the Web3 games were made, no offense, they're terrible. And they were like, I've previewed a couple of them. And if it takes 20 minutes to load something, and wait, I've made a move and I'm still just sitting here waiting for the next move to happen, I'm not going to play that. And if I'm not going to play it, I'm not going to invest in it. And nobody else is going to invest in it. So make the games fun, make the games playable, make them better, and it will come.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a gamer myself. I used to be into console games. I stopped because then I don't get anything done. I get obsessive, but I play for different reasons. I play for the story. So I used to just get captured by the cinematic movie clips. So I would just play so I could complete the story. And I always wanted them to give me the movie at the end. Like I always wanted to play the whole thing and then
watch the cutscene. Yeah, here's
like
the ending
a full
scene.
movie. But so I'm not the right market anyways, and I get obsessed. So I stopped playing a long time ago. I think I stopped playing around PlayStation 3 or 4.
Oh wow, I have 2 5s. One's from Asia and one's from Canada, so that when I was going back and forth between the houses, I didn't drop any of my games. And so now we have 2 sitting in my house, and it's like, oh, we've realized we can play CDs on one, but we can't on the other because we've gone back to DVDs. It's like this retcon thing where we're returning to physical media in a way. But if you like story, play Baldur's Gate 3, or that's the latest.
I've actually been at the office actually in Edmonton.
Oh really? In Larian?
The founder of it, who did I forget the name of the company, but I met the guy who did it because in his office tour they had a Baldur's Gate hallway. And it was an interesting story because the guy is his background is in biochemistry or something like that. But he was always tinkering with computers, and his dad bought him a computer instead of a sports car, and that's kind of what got it all going. But yeah, it's in a place you wouldn't even think. I think it was EA that bought them out. They also did the Knights of the Old Republic and a couple other titles. I'm not sure if the office is still there. I met him before he sold, and I think he sold the EA. Was it EA Sports? I can't remember who they sold
So
to.
for Baldur's Gate 3, it's Larian Studios. They're more Scandinavian based.
Yeah, that's not who I'm thinking about because they did Mass Effect, Knights of the Old Republic.
Okay.
But Baldur's Gate was like one of their
first games. Are you not
games.
thinking of Ubisoft?
That's who they sold.
Ubisoft.
I think that's who they sold to. But the guy who originally did it, though, he was in Edmonton because as my my college project was to go and find a company, and somebody knew a gaming company, so we went there. And I guess also he had bought the rights to I can't remember the name of the game, but you tell a story and you throw dice. Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Yes. So he bought the rights.
we have an essentials kit. My daughter's trying to get into being a dungeon master, which sounds very odd when you say that out loud. But she's getting into trying to start a club at her school to play D&D. to get other people. But anyway, that's we're going on another tangent.
I mean,
but yeah,
this is a really long time ago, so I probably mixed up a lot of names and stuff.
That's all right, but that is a game that I have now played over. I think I'm going on 300 hours for that game, and that's my second run.
Oh, wow.
And I'm still not finished. Well, no, I finished one, and I'm on my second run that I've not finished. There's just so much to do. It's a fantastic game, but I'm like you. I will, if I go down the rabbit hole, I'll be there for days. So I try to limit it to the weekends. Like if I know I have nothing to do in the weekend, okay, I'll fire it up in the morning, and I'll still be there at 3 a.m. playing. It's like, but I have this last battle to do. So yeah, it can be immersive. But if you look at esports and you look at the gaming market, it's well over. I think I'm now. Please don't quote me on this number because I'm probably getting it wrong. I don't know if it's 2 billion or 2 trillion. I think it's more than 2 billion. It's a very, very large number.
Because the company they sold to was, I believe, in Texas, as where their headquarters were. They kept the office at the time in Edmonton because some of the staff they had were from countries that can't go to the U.S.
Can't go to the U.S., yeah.
And I believe they also had an office in Australia for the same purpose as well.
Okay, yeah.
For whatever reasons at the time, because this would have been around 2007, 8, somewhere around there. So back to kind of the investment stuff with the Web3 companies. So are there specific metrics to Web3 companies that you look for?
I don't think it's that different from traditional tech investing. Some Web3 VCs may disagree vehemently here, but I don't look at, let's say, your tokenomics.
Okay.
I don't want to see it.
Why is that?
Because I don't think the real value of a company is in the tokens. I want to see a product. I want to see something that works. I want to see traction, so usage. In some companies, the token makes sense. As a governance or as gas, basically, that keeps the oil that keeps the machine running. In that case, yes, I'm interested in your token, but I'm not interested in your token as a speculative asset. And again, that may be way different to most Web3 investors because they're looking for an exit. Like I want my exit, and Web3 VCs are kind of different in that their investment horizon is massively truncated. So look, this is a 5-year horizon. This is a 5-year investment. Back in 2021, 2020, their investment horizon was a year. Like if I'm not seeing, 10x in a year, I'm not going to invest. So in a way, I find it a bit disingenuous. So it's just a bit too mercantile almost in a way, or not mercantile, that's VC, but just not looking at quality investments for companies that you would like to have in a portfolio. You're just looking for a quick exit. So for me, I prefer, this actually solves a problem. This is, like you said before, an actual digital transformation. This isn't a twinning of something that we already have and works. So why are we moving it to this? Something that could actually maybe have, even if they don't have really big, let's say, you're not going to get 10x, but you are going to have so much community support, and you're going to maybe go a bit viral.
So you do look at sort of their engagement in the Web3
community? I'll look for engagement in the Web3 community, but you have to be very, very cognizant of how you're looking at that engagement, and you have to be able to tell the difference between organic and sponsored. And
what are some telltale signs?
If they talk about KOLs nonstop, and we're going to have this KOL and that KOL, I'm not interested. I'll back right off.
And what is KOL?
KOL is a I don't want to say it's a Web3 term because it's not. I think it's expanded now, but it means a key opinion leader, which basically is just an influencer.
Oh, okay.
However, if you know anything about brand reputation, you have to be very cognizant of who you're having represent your brand. Because if you've looked closely at this industry and you've seen people pump this, pump that, especially a lot with a lot of the celebrity tokens, it's just pump and dump. And it's been pump and dump. And these KOLs have immediately either not disclosed their arrangement, that they were paid or they were, compensated in some way for this endorsement. Then they've turned around and immediately dumped on the community. And I think that's a disservice. If you're building a community to use your product and to support your company, if you're actually building a company, right? If you then engage in activity that just immediately turns around and dumps on said community, then you don't really, you're not in this to build something. You're in this for a quick exit.
So would you expect them to have a Telegram group or Discord channel, or do you think their X needs to show this? Because if you're a SaaS company, yeah, they're supposed to do marketing, but a lot of them will have like 10 followers.
Exactly. So,
but in Web3, does it matter? Do you need to have, like, in your assessment of them, because it's so community driven, that they kind of have to have some kind of community? Because if nobody is looking or liking your stuff, then you're not in a community liking and commenting on other people's stuff. So how much of that, I guess, matters?
So in my most recent incarnation, not recent incarnation, but for years that's marketing. That's where I'm coming from. So I'm usually helping companies with go-to-market, socials, things like that. However, you have to know how to look. There used to be a checklist. You need 10K on Telegram. You need at least, 10K would be the best on Telegram. If you had 7 or 8, okay, you're all right. So we can take a look at you at least. Discord came up more recently, and I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of Discord because it doesn't have a network effect. Discord is more like you're having a form for your community. It's like your own internal web form, which is fine, but that's not a metric that I can look at and say, oh, hey, you've got traction, because you have an echo chamber there. You're speaking to the choir. You're preaching to the choir, right? It can be an indication of these people have come on because they support you, but it also could be that you've just had an airdrop, and as part of the airdrop, you have to join the Discord channel. You've had a let's say an engagement or like we're doing community engagement, and so to qualify for this, you have to do these 5 things. You have to join the Telegram, you have to join the Twitter and follow and comment, and you have to join the Discord server and comment GM, fam, So if you don't know what you're looking at, you have to be able to tell the difference between organic and sponsored. And that takes a human eye. You can't have, you can't automate that. I suppose you could, but it's just so much easier to do a bit of due diligence and look at that and say, so those are all bots. So I would like some real traction numbers. Like, let's look at your transactions on chain, or look at your downloads. Like, if you're doing a DApp, what are your downloads? What's your monthly active users, or something like that? Or how much have you transacted on chain if it's something like DeFi or some sort of financial instrument? Because the days of just 10K Telegram, 10K Twitter, 10K, Discord, 10K and up Discord, are meaningless in a way, because that can be gamed so easily. And there was this story recently that a lot of people I respect have brought to light, especially on Twitter. Sorry, I won't call it X. I'll never call it X. It's Twitter. It's Twitter. It's Twitter. I'm too old to change. That this guy that nobody had ever heard of, called Professor Crypto, had won KOL of the year at the KOL Awards at Token 2049 in Singapore. And everyone's like, who is this guy? And real big names, and I don't want to say big names, but respected people in the industry going, hey, wait a minute, we don't even have any mutual followers, and I've been in this space for 10 years. So who's this guy? And this guy had something like 300K followers, and YouTube, 3 million or a million something on YouTube. And so they were like, whoa, 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 whoa. And what the hell are the KOL awards? What is this? So it was just you would have hoped that after the last bear, where everyone was terrified that the whole industry was about to collapse, everything was going to zero. We really have to, buckle down, build things that are, meaningful, that we would learn our lesson and not do this stuff again. And here we've come right back around, unfortunately. And we've got this guy saying he's, I'm the number one KOL. And it's like, nobody knows you, man. And he got on some sort of charter flight, I think from Dubai to Singapore, and was interviewing, let's say, like the reporter, the Web3 reporter, or the crypto, I wouldn't call her a crypto reporter, let's say blockchain focused reporter from Forbes on the plane. And then somebody from Cointelegraph, and they're all just kind of like, okay, yeah, sure, well, we'll give you an interview, but why are you platforming these people? So it's a bit of a, you can't look at that as a metric of success, because this guy isn't even getting eyeballs. They're all paid followers, all paid accounts. They're all botted, they're all paid, and that's really easy to do. You can buy followers, so that is not something that would make me invest in any way, shape, or form. Now, I've been in the industry long enough that I can look really quickly and go, no, absolutely not. Hopefully anybody doing due diligence on projects would do this, would look at this. And hopefully, even if it was a really good idea or a really good concept or platform or technology, they could then work with them and say, look, guys, I know you're just trying to get off the ground here. Organic growth takes longer. It does. And hopefully VCs will take a chance on companies and projects that are building something meaningful rather than just playing the follower numbers game for eyeballs for a token launch. Okay.
So I guess in your list of key metrics, so you said the problem they're solving, not digital twinning. Organic growth. Or a super fan. Do you know the concept of a super fan? Explain it.
So it takes one, and I think this concept was described to me by Pete Townsend. It takes one. If you can reach one person to be literally your super fan, like they adore your company, they love what you're doing, they're really, really psyched for it, that can be your best investment, because that person will be an ambassador for you without you having to, invest all this money in fake followers or PR activities or conferences or anything. You need to cultivate the super fan. You need to cultivate the super fan, but not just the super fan, but you have to cultivate and reward those community members that were with you from day one, because they will be your best, your best salesperson without them being on your BD team. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand this concept. I didn't know it was called
there's a super fan. And they will organically grow because they will go out and convince people for you. So cultivate those people, cherish those people, and really nurture that relationship. A lot of Web3 companies aren't. They're just trying to play the numbers game, and I understand why. I do understand why. I empathize with why. I just don't see it as a long-term sustainable practice.
Okay, makes sense. Is there any, I guess the last question, I guess, in terms of looking at the investment is scaling. So I would like to hear your commentary on that, because even, I'm more from the B2B SaaS side of things, and scale is always a long conversation.
Yeah.
So I think it kind of ties into the community and superfan concept. So what are your thoughts on that in relation to Web3 startups?
Sometimes scaling is a difficult one, because sometimes you're going to hit a natural wall, whereas tech adoption, if your UX and your UI is usually good enough, you can penetrate quite deeply into whatever market you're in, and you can have anyone using it. For Web3, we have the technical hurdles, and especially the UX hurdles of wallets. and tokens and custody, self-custody, managed custody, what have you. So if they're using a token where you have to connect, anything you have to do, the first thing you have to do, connect wallet, you've just lost a lot of people. If their goal is to really, really scale, then you're going to hit that wall eventually. Usually we'll have a conversation of not where you see yourself in the next 5 years, because this industry is not is not like that. Again, 1 year is like 5. So what's your 2-year plan? Where are you going to be next year? Where are you going to be next
shorter
year?
Cycles.
Way shorter cycle. Do you have, feature rollouts that you're going to be doing? What are you working on with UI and UX, especially? How do you make this user friendly? Can my mom use this? I'd say can my grandma, but
my mom cannot use any
no,
of
no.
this.
My mom can't text. Okay. My mom can't text. So, I don't think we're there yet where it's easy enough to use. And I thought we were going to be there a lot faster than the way it's going, but we've seemed to have a pivot and everything's DeFi. So we've just made a pivot to decentralized finance and that's it. Or real world assets. So we're digitizing real world assets and we're digitally twinning them. Okay, that's great, but it's still not addressing the fundamental problem of ease of use. So it seems like a lot of, I don't even know if it's the industry overall, but they've kind of almost not abandoned, but they've kind of pushed to the side adoption, which used to be the mantra: adoption, 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 adoption. Like we want mainstream adoption. And it's more like they've stuck a flag in the sand saying, no, we're contrarian and we don't want adoption. We don't want you people. But that's so short-sighted. And it's not a long-term plan. It's not a viable long-term plan. So scaling is going to be hard until you address the idea of security, of barriers to entry for just technological know-how, education, and the interoperability. And that used to be the buzzword of like 2020, 2021, interoperability. Every chain is going to be able to interact with every other chain, and we're all going to be able to, have cross-chain swaps that are easy. And that's not happened. It's happened to a certain degree, and then we've had massive problems with bridges. And now we've got, we're doing atomic swaps, we're doing ZK rollups, we're doing, what was the other term that for some reason I'm now blanking in my brain? But mostly atomic swaps, and then or account abstraction, which is again fantastic technological advances, but your average person has no idea what the heck you're talking about. So until you can condense it down to an easy to use, easy to explain and understand concept, and people don't have to think about, I need a ledger and I need and I need an air-gapped computer, I need a ledger or whatever other, because ledger's been hacked as well. I need some other form of self-custody that I keep on me or in a safe or something. I need that separate completely from the internet, and I need to remember my seed phrase, and I need to keep a copy of that in a safe somewhere in another spot, and this must never touch this. You're not going to be able to scale to probably the scale you want to be at, unless you still want to be a little niche company, and that's fine. But if you want to scale to be a worldwide company that a lot of people are using, like Coinbase has done this. They've made making a wallet, they've made onboarding incredibly easy. Because people,
I think they're on the path to be technically the first digital bank of the world.
Yes. Now that was Silvergate, but Silvergate was a nightmare to deal with.
If you just look at their product offerings and services, and they're not trying to twin.
Nope.
They're doing it very differently, and they're doing it in a way that I would say doesn't create the issues that what's that German bank that had to buy a bank in order to
but also like the way everybody used to bank if you were a larger project in Web3 was to go through Silvergate. I've dealt with Silvergate, and it was always the multi-sig was a nightmare, and you had a 24-hour expiry before you could do the multi-sig. And with a worldwide distributed team with people all over the world trying to do this multi-sig, if you missed it, then you had another 24 hours. And it was just really, really hard to do anything. It was great for what it was, you know, the kind of a pioneer in what they went, but it has to be easier. And I think Coinbase is the only one.
Because once Coinbase can really somehow be involved in sort of the transactions at the store, we'll call it.
Yes.
Then they're in. The question then is going to be if you are paying your employees in crypto and you're receiving it in a wallet on Coinbase, does Coinbase now have to go under the Banking Act?
I would say so.
So that is where the issue comes in, because a lot of these digital, we'll call them digital banks, they don't offer checking accounts because that's how they get around having to go under the Banking Act. So at least in this country. So I have one more final note on Web3 before we move to the closing questions. And that is, this one I would say is more for startups and founders in Web3. Are there any challenges that you're consistently seeing across Web3 companies, or maybe just something that irritates you about Web3 companies that you would just like to point out so that maybe these founders don't have to work through these problems and discover it themselves to overcome it? I'm sure there's lots, but you know, if there's just one big one that sticks out at you all the time and it's a challenge that they're consistently facing, that you would like to share.
Sure. I think this is the one thing that jumps out at me consistently. I think it's also, I wouldn't say a problem, but kind of an issue that really should be thought of. It's also prevalent across just tech in general, where devs are running the company, where development is running the company. And that's not tenable in the long term. And I understand that you've built this cool thing. That's amazing. And that's great, because I can't do that. However, if nobody knows about it, if nobody knows how to market it, if nobody knows how to operationalize it, if nobody knows where it fits in the business, you've just built a cool thing and it's not going to go anywhere. Lacking EQ, as well as, you know, not just IQ, but EQ, and having the soft skills to interact with people is severely lacking in a lot of tech startups and Web3 startups. Just, yeah, but look, I've done all this and I'm going to throw 18 different, you know, technical jargon words at you. And it's like, that's great, but how do I use it? And then that usually just, but no, like, it's frustrating for me because I'm not a developer. I fully admit that I'm not a developer. But if you can't explain to me, because in the end, you want customers or consumers or community members, however you want to define them, you want people to use this. And if you can't tell them how to use it, you can't tell me how it's going to be used, then where's this going? Why are you doing this? If it's and it doesn't mean you shouldn't do that. Like, oh, I'm solving a technical problem that I see and I'm making this cool technical thing. That's great. Then you do that, but it's more of a hobby. Do you know what I mean? It's more of an intellectual exercise that I've really done this cool thing. And everyone's like, yeah, fantastic. You're awesome. You're smart. I get that. If you're trying to build a company, generate revenue, you know, have employees, everything, you need to sell whatever you've created, or you need to tell me why that's solving this problem. And you need to market it. Marketing is not a dirty word. Especially in Web3, it's always seen as a dirty word, and this is not what we need to spend money on. We need devs. And yes, you're right, you do need devs, because you can't build anything if you don't have the devs. But you also need something in between that translates what the devs are saying to everybody else, and how this thing that you've made, that you've created, that is your baby, and I understand that. That is your baby. You've created it. You believe in it. It's part of you. but you then have to explain what that does to people on the end user. There has to be an end user in mind when you're building something.
Yes, I definitely agree with you. I see a lot of the same.
Yeah.
The business side of the company it takes a while to get them there.
Yes.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So now on to the fun questions. So first one is there anything you're currently reading or listening to that you'd like to share? Because I know everyone doesn't have time to read books. So if you don't read books.
I have like 3 or 4 books. I have a TBR pile that's about, like up to my knee on the side of my bed. And I've got 3 or 4 bookcases that I'm like, oh, wait, I have to stop buying books because I've not gotten through them. And I've been on a bit of a, let's say, technical, political, political technology bent. So I'm reading, and a lot of people won't agree with this either, but that's fine. The Burn Book by Kara Swisher. A lot of people don't like her now as a tech journalist, mostly because she's gone against Elon. She doesn't like Elon. So they're not so super fond of her right now. But I find her experience, especially in early Silicon Valley, is really interesting to read about. Like, what she called the Google twins, and how Facebook started and how Google started, and visiting the offices, and her then wife used to work with Google, and I find that really interesting. I've not gotten super far through it yet, but I'm reading that now. I'm also reading a bit of a contrarian book that, The New Authoritarians, which kind of goes against my political leanings, but I find it interesting and important to understand where other people are coming from, at least, because in the end, we're all humans. So you should at least listen to people. And I'm also rereading. Well, I'm always rereading Tolkien, but now I've not gotten to Unfinished Tales, and I found it on my bookcase. And I was like, okay. I want to.
Season 2 is out on Amazon.
Yeah, Rings of Power.
That
I know.
Wasn't a plug, by the way. But...
No, I love and oh wow, the discourse about it's you're desecrating the memories, but that's all the same discourse about Star Wars. It's you're making it woke. Like, I'm sorry, but Star Trek, Star Wars was always politically left. You just weren't paying attention because you were probably a kid when you watched it. You weren't paying attention. Like, they were always that way. Now you're just taking offense to it for some reason. And
I think the difference is they tried to build it in so it wasn't in your face. And now I feel like the writers aren't as good, and so that's
also true. But also I don't understand the outrage about.
There's always
not real worlds. It's not real. Calm down.
There's always an agenda.
Yeah.
There's always propaganda
for everything.
But I do think, at least in Western media, we don't bother to hide it anymore. We just do it right in front of you.
Yeah.
Which is why I really enjoy watching foreign films, because I don't know their political issues and I don't know their propaganda. So when I'm watching it,
it's like, oh, this is interesting.
They're throwing things in, and I'm like, oh, that's probably what their issues are. But I'm like, it doesn't really affect the story, so I can enjoy it.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I just don't understand the white hot rage for saying, you can't have, for example, like an elf who's black. I'm like, but elves aren't real. They're not real, so why do you care? I don't understand caring about something like that. But that's beyond the point.
So for the second question, what tech tool or productivity hack can you not live without? Like, for example, some people it's Calendly or something like that. So
good question. I am pretty sure I'm some form of neurospicy, so I constantly need reminders, and if I don't have reminders popping up on my phone, I will not remember. I usually have a pretty good memory. My husband would say, no, you remember everything, please stop remembering everything. But if I don't put a reminder in my phone, or I ask my daughter to remind me, but she's also, I'm pretty sure, ADHD. So we're both of us are like, well, I forgot that, but I remember this. And, random song lyrics are in my head, 40 years later. But reminders, reminders, reminders to do things. Basically, lists aren't helpful because I'll feel great once I write it down and then I'll never look at the page again. I'll write notes and be like, oh yeah, I took those notes. Anything that I can schedule that will pop up as a reminder for me is something I cannot do without at all. I cannot.
Okay, so it sounds like you're kind of like me. For me, it's like any calendar. It doesn't matter if it's Outlook or Google or whatever.
Yeah, or my iCal. I need something that will pop
like
up.
you, if I don't have it in there,
it's not in my head.
I don't know that I was supposed to do it.
It's like, wait, what was I supposed to do today? Like something will niggle in the back of my head. Like, wait, that date sounds familiar. Why? And then I'll look, oh, wow. Yeah, I have this. Or something that reminds me of the time because I have time blindness sometimes. Yeah.
So the next one is, do you have any health or wellness routines to help you stay balanced and focused?
Wow.
Now, again, if you're not somebody that does something, maybe it's donuts or maybe it's something else, but whatever it is that keeps you sane.
I'm not super crunchy. I'll be honest. I'm not super crunchy. And I've just moved back. So everything is kind of literally thrown up in the air. When I was in Bangkok, I was in a much better, let's say, in a much better health routine where the first thing I would do is get up, get my daughter off to school, and then I'd be in the gym. First thing, doing Zumba, Pilates, or I had a personal trainer. So I have a spine injury, but I was getting back into lifting in a safe way, which was awesome. So I was feeling absolutely great about that. So I had a really good routine there. And then by the time I get home, whatever, it'd be like a couple hours to work because I usually condense a work day. I usually condense a work day down to really concentrated, about 4 hours. You can bang everything out. I can usually get a week's worth of work done in a couple of days. But that was a really great routine for me. And then my daughter would come home from school. We'd figure something out, whatever. But since coming back here, life in Bangkok and life in Canada, especially rural Quebec, is night and day. And I have a house to care for now, and not just any house. This is a log home that was hand built by my husband's father back in the 80s. So there are a lot of little idiosyncrasies and quirks that I have to, deal with. Like I have to change water filters. I've got to unblock vents and open vents in the crawl space downstairs because we're on bedrock and it seeps. And if the water and moisture seeps into the concrete, our foundation will start to crumble. I've got landscaping to do. Weeds are growing up through my gravel. I have to cut the grass. I've got to. I have a pathway down to a dock that I also have to mow or weed whack. I've got 5 cats that I have to care for. Yeah, that I am crazy.
Okay, so for
crazy
you,
cat lady.
So for you, it's housework.
It's housework. Right now, it's housework. So I have to get up. We get up at about 5 something, and we have to be on the road before 7 because I'll be honest, Ottawa is a small city compared to what we came from. But I did not expect there to be that much traffic at 7:30 in the morning or like something like that. But then once we hit down by the bridge, sometimes it's backed up to one of the exits to Gatineau.
Yeah, it's optimistic construction plans.
Yes.
So we put the pylon out before we're going to do the actual work.
Yeah, like there's a bunch of pylons and 50-kilometer signs. And I went, oh no, I know what's coming. Please don't do this to me because I drive in and out 4 times a day. And this is going to be a nightmare. So kids' school starts at 8:10. She has to be there, at least 20 minutes early. And then I turn around and drive back and then do whatever you need to do working in the midst of that and then turn around and drive back, but have to go at least an hour early because there's no parking. If you don't get parking, yeah. So the routine now is not what I want it to be. I want to get back to the gym because I find that helps me to expend energy and focus. But I actually have housework now. So anybody who lives in Bangkok, I'm going to sound like an elitist twat, but that's not it. Anybody in Bangkok has help, whether it's live-in, whether it's, come in a couple of times a week, you have a helper. They come in and the dirt, the noise, the dust in Bangkok is just, the heat is all encompassing. And if you're not cleaning all the time, you're going to get behind and you're going to have dust and dirt, and nothing is sealed. Like there's no seals on the windows, especially older places. It's just wooden doors and windows. And so all the dust and dirt comes in because it's a city of 10 plus million people. That's just the way it is. So we had help 3 times a week to come in, and it was a convenient city. I live in rural Quebec. Nobody's delivering food to my door. You have the perennial question, oh God, what are we going to do for dinner? And my husband's still overseas right now. So it's just me and my daughter. So like, wait, what are we going to do for dinner? Right. Yeah. Okay. Good question. So go to Costco, stock up on chicken.
You're already out there. Yeah. You could just go hunting.
We're not allowed to hunt where I am in our neighborhood. We're not allowed to hunt, which is odd, but I digress because there are so many deer. I see 6 on the way on, my drive-in every day, begging them not to jump in front of my car. But yeah, there's 6. I'm like, that's a lot that could fit in my deep freeze. That's a lot of meat, field dress it, use it all, but field dress it and put it in my deep freeze.
So the last question here is, looking back on your experience, what advice would you offer to your younger self or an aspiring entrepreneur or investor?
Wow. Younger self would be, don't stress so much about about where you're going to end up. It'll work out. For an aspiring entrepreneur is, don't be afraid to make mistakes. You will make mistakes. Mistakes aren't bad as long as you learn from them. It is a learning opportunity. So, take the big swing, try the thing that you're a little bit scared to try. Reach out to people. Don't do this. And also don't do it don't isolate yourself. Don't do this in a silo. Reach out to your network. Because it does take a lot of people to make something really work, an idea to go. My younger self, don't worry. You'll be okay. You'll be okay. It's not as scary as you think it is. You can talk to people. It's all right. But entrepreneurs, just take the risk. Take the risk, but don't forget that you have a life outside of this. Because I've seen way too many people just get burnt out, burn friendships, isolate family. Don't do that. Don't do that. You need that support system. And I'm not trying to be, to use terminology, I'm not trying to be soy or saying, you're soft. No, you will need this support network because everyone is human and everyone has a breaking point. You need your support network. Go out and touch the grass. Go out and smell the air. You will be okay. It will be there when you come back. Take care of yourself because your company will never work if you don't work. If you've burnt yourself out, you've done a disservice to your startup because you are your startup. If you don't take care of you, you're not taking care of it.
Cool. That's a good way to close off. So this is the part where if there's anything you want to talk about, promote, whatever, your social links to follow you, any of that kind of stuff.
I don't recommend anybody follow me on social media because I'm a bit, and I've stupidly, and I realize that now, I stupidly use my real name on my Twitter account. I'm chronically online. And it's something I would like to work on, to not be chronically online and not be, everybody's susceptible to the addiction of social media. And I would like to work on not being so online, to be honest. But yeah, you can find me on Twitter if you like. I do apologize if you don't like what you see, because I am very, I guess for an industry that I'm in, people would call me left-wing, I suppose. I'm for equality. I'm for women's rights. I'm for, diversity. I'm for, when I was a kid, we called Canada a mosaic. We never called it a melting pot because that's not what we were. We weren't America where everyone had to come and be this one type of American. We were Canadians. So everyone from different places could come and fit in somewhere.
I don't think we're that either.
No?
I mean, I don't think we're a melting pot. I don't.
No, we're absolutely
no,
not a melting
because
pot.
This is a place where you can come and you can be exactly the same as you were wherever
Yeah.
you were.
Yeah.
And it is quite possible here for sure. But I just wanted to say thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me, really.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what other stuff we do here while you're in the region.
Yeah, I'm really keen to see what's happening here. Like, I'm really keen to see what happens and what comes out of Ottawa, especially what comes out of Canada. I would like to see this industry really, blossom.
I think we have the talent, but we have to find a way to get the support that is not contingent on government.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I think that's where we're kind of stuck at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of builders, we have plenty of builders.
Yeah, that's the problem. We export all of our builders.
Yes, I agree.
We export them. We have a brain drain and we need to keep them here. We need to keep them in Canada. We need to develop the Canadian ecosystem. It needs to be here. Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
You can find information about the Candid Capital podcast on the website, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Episodes can be found on Spotify and other podcast platforms. A quick reminder that this is infotainment and is not intended to be professional advice, malicious, or hateful. The views, information, or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not represent those of employers, partners, and their subsequent connected private and public associations or organizations.
We candid, I hope you understand it. Your business growth, we planned it. Yeah, this ain't for show, we stamped it. Yeah, no FOMO. Everyone come join, no solo. This all factual. From me to you, this Candid Capital.